a part-time magician. Would you like to see a magic trick?
They say monsters hide under the bed. But in 1978, suburban Denver, the monster drove a black van. He wore a mask that smiled when you cried, frowned when you screamed, and stared blankly when your hope finally broke. Kids call him the Grabber. He wouldn't stop in broad daylight, drop a cluster of black balloons, and before anyone noticed, another child was gone. Parents whispered warnings, newspapers printed headlines, but no one knew who he was or why he hunted, and that is why it's made him terrifying. Welcome to Off the Mystery. I'm Fofi, and today we're looking into the Black Phone. This movie tells the chilling story of Finney Blake, a shy 13-year-old boy who becomes the latest victim of the Grabber, a sadistic child abductor who stalks Denver neighborhoods in a black van. What separates the Black Phone from many other horror films is the way it blends folklore, trauma, and supernatural elements into a deeply unsettling story. And at the center of it, lurking in the shadows of every scene, is a Grabber, portrayed with terrifying precision by Ethan Hawke. But here's where things get even more exciting. The Black Phone 2 is officially coming to theaters on the 17th of October 2025. The sequel will see the return of Finney and his sister Gwen, now older, still haunted by the past. And yes, Ethan Hawke is back once again as a Grabber. How? That's the chilling mystery we'll dig into later. The Grabber is one of modern horror's most unnerving monsters. Not because we know of his tragic origin or his twisted psychology, but precisely because we don't. Unlike villains such as Freddy Krueger or Pennywise, who come in with elaborate backstories, the Grabber remains a blank slate of evil. Director Scott Derrickson refused to give him a past, stating that mystery is what makes him powerful, similar to Michael Myers in John Carpenter's Halloween. Here's what we need to know. He hunts young boys in broad daylight. He uses simple tricks such as magic acts and balloons to disarm them. He imprisons them into a soundproof basement, leaving the door unlocked as a trap, a sadistic game he calls Naughty Boy. He wears an interchangeable mask, sometimes smiling, sometimes frowning, sometimes black. These masks, designed by horror legend Tom Savini, symbolized by his fractured identity. But beyond that, nothing. No backstory, no explanation, just pure menace. And that's what makes him so horrifying, because he could be anyone. The mask is arguably just as terrifying as the Grabber himself. It's split into upper and lower halves, allowing him to change his expression. A twisted grin when he wants to taunt, a blank stare when he's cold and detached, a frown when his control sleeps. The mask doesn't just hide his face, it hides his humanity. When he wears it, he isn't a man anymore. He's a force, a predator, a nightmare brought to life. Even Ethan Hawke admitted that he played different emotions depending on which version of the mask he wore. Sometimes he was playful, sometimes violent, sometimes strangely tender, But the terrifying truth is this: when the grabber wears the mask, he's honest. And when he takes it off, that's when you should be afraid. Inside the grabber's basement sits a disconnected, broken black rotary phone. It shouldn't work. It doesn't even have a dial tone. And yet, Finney hears it ring. Through it, he communicates with the voices of the grabber's previous victims, children who were kidnapped, imprisoned, and killed. The phone becomes a lifeline, a weapon, and most importantly, a symbol. It represents the voices of the silence refusing to be forgotten. It represents trauma echoing from beyond the grave. And it becomes the tool through which Finney finally defeats his captor. The idea of the phone being both dead and alive reflects the entire theme of the movie, that the past never truly dies. Why does the grabber work as a horror villain? Because he's grounded in reality. There are no supernatural powers here, just manipulation, control, sadistic games. He represents real-world predators, real-world fears, and the fact that the story is loosely inspired by author Joe Hill's childhood experiences. Growing up hearing about local murders and kidnappings makes it even more unsettling. But at the same time, the film layers is a supernatural which Gwen's psychic dreams and the black phone's ghostly calls. The result is a blend of folklore and reality, a monster who feels mythic while still being terrifyingly possible. Now let's talk about the sequel. The Black Phone 2 takes place several years later. Finney and Gwen are now navigating high school life, still scared by the horrors of their childhood. Director Scott Derrickson has promised that the sequel will be darker, more violent, and more psychologically complex than the original. The biggest twist? The grabber returns. But how can Ethan Hawke's character become something that he's clearly died in the first film, right? There are a few possibilities. Number one, ghostly returns. The grabber might return through the same black phone that connected his victims. If the dead can reach out, maybe so can he. Or maybe it can be flashbacks. We can see more of his methods and rituals throughout the past, filling in the gaps without giving him a full origin. Or it can be supernatural resurrection. Like, what if the grabber is just a man, but something far more worse, a force that can't be killed by a boy's defiance? Whatever the explanation, one thing's for sure: the Black Phone 2 will expand the mythology. Derrickson has hinted that the sequel explores trauma over time. How Finney and Gwen try to move on, only to find that the past is pulling them back into the darkness. And considering that Joe himself pitched the story idea, we can expect a natural continuation that doesn't just recycle the original but builds on it. The Grabber is one of horror's most chilling creations in recent years, not because we understand him, but because we don't. His masks hide a void. His actions leave questions unanswered. His basement echoes with the voices of the dead. In a genre filled with villains who are explained, dissected, and even sympathized with, the Black Phone dares to give us a monster who remains a mystery. And with the Black Phone 2 arriving this October, that mystery only deepens. Will the Grabber finally be unmasked? Or is he destined to remain what he's always been? A faceless predator, a shadow in the dark, and a reminder that sometimes evil doesn't need a reason. So what do you think? Should the Grabber's backstory remain hidden? Or would learning the truth make him even more scarier? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and remember, don't answer if the Black Phone rings.